Sander woke around mid-afternoon. He left Ragnar asleep in his cave and started to stroll along the Taranis road. His every footfall made his head pound like a bass drum, and he despaired that all his headache potions were in his chambers at the Citadel. He wasn't sure what it was that Raggy put in his mushroom soup, some kind of secret ingredient that Sander suspected was nothing more than homemade hooch. But it made his mouth dry, and the skin around his skull felt tight. He spent the first mile or so of his walk convincing himself that the symptoms were some kind of allergic reaction to the soup, and that he would surely be dead by the end of the day. This was a perfectly normal thought cycle for Sander. Assume the worst, wallow in pity, then shrug it off and feel better about himself. Only these days, it was getting harder and harder to shrug off the doom and gloom. And now he'd killed a man. Sander knew the sickening feeling he had in his stomach could only partly be blamed on Ragnar's soup. Sander had considered using magic to fly to Taranis, but flight was exhausting and dangerous, and in his state he'd most likely end up flattened on the side of a cliff face or misjudge the distance and drown in a lake. He convinced himself that a bit of fresh air and ambulatory exercise might help walk it off. But every flat, heavy footstep just made it worse, and that cloud of guilt would not go away. He'd been walking for about an hour and a half when a passing farmer offered him a lift on his horse and cart.
Taranis? I'm going that way myself. Up on me, Joy.
You, sir, are a hero and my new best friend. Sander heaved himself up onto the seat next to the farmer, who wittered on about the route he was planning to take, as if Sander cared. The farmer ponged a bit. There were remnants of recently unloaded manure in the empty cart, but Sander was willing to put up with it if it meant he could give his head a rest. He might even get a nap out of it, if only this fellow would shut up for 5 minutes.
I'm Maddock, the farmer said. Maddock Shea. He was perhaps 20 years younger than Sander, wide-eyed, with hair like freshly harvested straw. The ravages of his profession had not yet taken their toll on Maddock, apart from a raw stripe of sunburn across his nose.
A pleasure, Maddock, Sander smiled, not offering his own name, and hiding under his long hair so that only his nose poked out between the blonde curtains.
My ma always said to do favours for mages, as you'll never know when you'll need one from one of them.
Your mother is a very wise woman, Maddock. Maddock geed his horse, and they began bumping along the rocky road to Taranis.
I expect you get people doing you favours all the time, he said after a few minutes.
Not as many as you'd think. Sander didn't mean to sound ungrateful, but the truth was he was rather taken for granted. Not just by the king and the court, but by pretty much everyone he met. Barely a day went by when he wasn't asked to cure some piddling ailment.
I have this growth on my big toe, Maddock started.
Oh, here we go. Garlic juice. Sander jumped in before he was given too many unnecessary gory details. Rub it on the growth, cover it with a clean bandage, repeat for a couple of months.
You can't just magic it away. Maddock waggled his fingers on the word magic.
Why did so many people insist on doing that? Street conjurers had a lot to answer for. Yeah, I'm not much of a healer, to be honest, Sander puffed. And magic can be rather exhausting, especially healing magic. So if there's a regular way of doing it, then we prefer...
You don't want to give it a try? Maddock reached down to take off one of his boots. Just have a gander, perhaps.
Thank you for the opportunity. But no. Sander leaned back and closed his eyes, hoping that would be the end of it.
That's a shame. Maddock sat bolt upright, gripping the reins, his voice terse.
Sander forced himself to open one eye. Try the garlic option, friend. It works, I promise you.
I reckon if I did you a favour, then you might do one for me, but never mind. I know you mages think you're better than us regular folks.
There's no need to get like that.
I ain't getting like nothing.
I could turn you into ashes. Sander clicked his fingers and Maddock tensed. But I choose not to, so we're even.
So it's threats, is it?
Look, Sander gestured at the farmer, struggling to remember his name.
Maddock.
Maddock, look, I don't mean to be rude, but if I needed manure or whatever it is you trade, I would pay for your services fair and square, and we'd shake hands and be on our way. Now, me curing you of whatever it is on your big toe in exchange for a ride to Taranis, where, I hasten to remind you, you were going anyway, hardly seems fair now, does it?
If you say so.
I do. The cart continued to rock gently along the road, an uncomfortable silence between the two men. Just how Sander liked it.
We have a mage in our village, Maddock offered.
Well done.
Name's Ragnar Rokus. You know him?
Actually, I do.
He's a twat and all.
I'm going to sleep now, Maddock. Sander closed his eyes again. Try anything funny and I'll turn you into a frog. One that's allergic to water.